Sorenameka Sareniaka Sitiki. Welcome, everybody. Saretakenameka Saretikinyamaka to this beautiful space of remembrance as well. Soretapeka Sareninyameka. I have the honor of truly being in this space with a wonderful sister. A wonderful, wonderful sister. Her name is Hanna Lena Christensen. She's a sorceress, a certified astrologer, and a rebirth coach. And let me also, before I let her speak, let me just say to you that she was one of those women that put this little imprint in me when I was somewhat lost. So again, it's such an honor to have you here, Hanna. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. And I'm so blessed that you have this podcast and that you're sharing your wisdom and, really sharing about all the people that have helped you on the journey and also realizing, sharing that light with your community. So thank you so much for having me on here.
Of course. I really want to start the podcast with this because we were talking right before we started recording about when we first met. Mm-hmm. And at those moments, even though I was finding my way, I still felt a little lost. And because people were saying like, you just got to do one thing. And I was like, gosh, I'm so good at doing a lot of things. So I was in this space of like, okay, Kundalini yoga or energy work, or maybe just asana yoga. I don't know. And I remember you like read some cards. I forgot even what it was. And you asked me, do you like, have problems with this? I was like, yeah. And you're like, no, you can just mix it all. And I'm like, I can.
Yeah. And I remember that day so vividly. I was pregnant with my daughter, Emma, who is now almost 5 years old. And it was downtown Las Vegas. It was an event, like a spiritual gathering event. I'm not even sure what exactly it was, but I was reading tarot cards.
Yep.
And you came and I don't even know, our session was maybe like 20 minutes or so. And I read a bunch of people that night, but I only remember you coming in. I only remember that particular reading. And it was like right before you went into your 5th year. I remember that too, because you were saying, oh, wow, the number 5 in our year as in numerology is all about that freedom and breaking free from the mold and fully embodying your authentic self. So I was super excited for you. I remember.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Like I said, that reading, out of all the people, that I've met in Las Vegas, there's only like a few that meant something so deeply, because I felt like through that conversation of that connection, something in me just reawakened. And definitely you were one of those. And I still have that. Yeah, I still remember vividly, because it was almost like I can give myself permission to just be and be like, put everything in combination and just do it. And once I heard that from you, I was like, game changer, game changer.
Yes. And that's such a beautiful piece right there, because I feel like now that we're moving into the age of Aquarius, we are not here to just go into jobs that were created from the past, that were created from the more masculine way of looking at things, the very imbalanced patriarchy that we've all been raised on, that had separated everything into this is this subject, this is this, even in school, this is math, this is physics, this is spirituality or religion, where it's like, wait, all of this is actually together. All of this is flowing together. And to think that we're just one thing, but not the other, that's that sort of, masculine energy, one versus the other, that we want to move away from and going towards, all right, how can we bring in more of the feminine, of yin and yang? Yes. And let's do both together. And that's where we truly have that medicine. What I do with my clients is I help them find like what is your particular medicine? And I kind of like to see it as this
Mm.
cauldron, this witch's cauldron. And we're putting all these different ingredients in, you know, how you were saying Kundalini yoga and light language, energy healing. And you put all the things that bring you joy, that excite you. And you bring all the medicine into this cauldron, and then you stir it and you make it your own medicine that you give to the people. And that's what makes it so unique. And that's what makes us so special. And we don't have any competition from that place.
Exactly.
It's like, well, you can only have that medicine from Rukmani. That's it. You can't go to anybody else.
Oh, wow. That was a powerful description. I love that. Oh, it's so visual too. And it's so true, especially being in this field as like guides and etc. There tends to be this thing of like, no, and what if my clients go there? And I truly believe that your clients are your clients. Somebody else's clients are somebody else's clients, because like you said, we all carry different kinds of medicines. There are, because of our story, like nobody really has your story. And that's like so beautiful, so beautiful.
And sometimes, clients go and have some of this medicine, some of that, and then they create their own medicine from all the medicines that we've given them,
Yeah.
And just as we have coaches and guides, and we take medicine from each one of them, that's how we are so in flow with community, and seeing that, even in sisterhood, like really reclaiming that power within community and sisterhood, that we're here to share our gifts with each other and share our medicines with each other.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, I love this. Thank you. I already feel like something super activated in my heart. Yes, sisterhood and community is so important. And there's so much separation in the planet, there's so much separation in the planet that we don't need to like contribute more to that. There's been enough of that. And just going into that space of, yes, community and sisterhood, and witnessing each other and being there for support and guide whatever it is that somebody needs, and then watching them bloom. Oh my Lord, that is one of the most beautiful gifts, I believe, in existence, to see somebody, witness somebody coming back into their senses and themselves, and just like you said, their medicine. And then next thing you know, they're like, ooh, like a beautiful tree with so many fruits. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. And then also knowing that with each one of us that is growing, we're all growing together, because we're, at the same time as we are our own trees, we're also part of this huge tree. So like growing individually helps us grow collectively as well.
Yes. Wow. So I love to hear, how did you get to the space that you are, Hanna? Because I only know the Hanna that is totally shining. Just your light, and spreading your wisdom and tarot cards and all these things, that we forget that we have a very powerful story that is also our medicine. And so, what was the story? Where did Hanna come from, and how did she get to be where she's at right now?
So beautiful. Thank you for asking that question. And I feel like, we are multidimensional beings, and our past self is still in us always, So in this moment, it's like Maiden Hanna steps in. It's like, oh, cool. Now I can share. And it's this, when you think of the triple moon goddess symbol, and the first quarter moon, like the waxing moon, is the maiden part of us, our past self. And then we have the full moon, which is our present self, the mother, the nourishing, like where we shine our light bright. And then we have the crone, which is our higher self. That's the wisdom, right? And we're literally walking through life like this, with having our past self here and our higher self here, and we're in the middle. And then it's like, okay, cool. But sometimes our past self comes in, those are like past wounds that are coming up, and be like, hey, I need to get nurtured, and this feels triggering, and this is hard for me. And then other times our higher self comes in and be like, let me share this wisdom with you. And we're like, okay, feel into it. So now it's maiden time. Yeah, so I was born in Ingolstadt in Germany, and I was born to Ingolstadt is the city. It's close to Munich, and that's where Audi was created, and also the Illuminati were founded there.
Wow.
It was very interesting. And actually, the Illuminati comes from a place of very enlightened being that really just wanted to spread enlightenment towards their community into the world. And then it kind of got throughout the centuries, kind of shifted its perception. And we don't actually know what happened to the original Illuminati, but now when we refer to Illuminati, it's not that very conscious, enlightened group anymore. But yeah, so I was born in Ingolstadt, and my parents, which was kind of interesting in my upbringing, was because my parents, especially from my dad's side, was very religious. Religion was very important there. But at the same time, both of my parents are very scientific. My dad is an engineer. My mom is information technology, like IT teacher in high school in Germany. And so both of them came from this very logical mindset, but then at the same time, we also went to church every second Sunday. And every second Sunday, that was like the compromise.
I love this.
And so it was so funny because I was raised between this like religion on one hand and science on the other hand. And so in my life, like science, like math and physics were very much put on importance. It was important for me to learn that, especially from my dad's side. And then on the other hand, religion, I wasn't allowed to ask any question about that. Like as soon as I was like, wait, why are we doing that? Or why are we only talking to a man? Where's the woman? Where's goddess? We just talk about the Lord. Like what? Or, what happened with Adam and Eve? Like how, all these different questions that I had as a kid, it was like, no, you cannot ask about this. You just have to believe. But on the other hand, science, yes, you have to ask all the time.
Wow.
And research and investigate, because that is what science is. But religion is like, you just have to believe. So it was like these like very opposite fields, right? And I always felt like it just felt so weird to me. And now that I know, it's because I'm meant to like bring both of them together. This is where we're moving into in this collective evolution, realizing that science and spirituality are actually going hand in hand.
Yes,
We don't have to separate them. Actually, when we separate them, then it makes it worse on both levels. It's not good for the root of them to be separated, because they thrive more when they're flowing together. So this is how I was raised. And then interestingly enough, in school, I had one of my main subjects was math and physics, and then French and religion. And I really wanted to bring all these pieces always together. And I took French because I loved other languages and loved the language the whole country. So moving from that spot, then when I was a kid, I felt I was always astral traveling without even knowing what I was doing. So I had very many lucid dreams, and my dreams were very vivid, and I would learn how to open up portals within my dreams, and I would go into different dimensions, and I would talk to different beings, and would like discover worlds and talk to loved ones who have crossed over. And I would come to my mom and would tell her all about my dreams. And she would just be like, you have such a great imagination. And from her, it comes from a good place, because that's how she believes. But for me, that was actually really hurtful for myself, because I didn't feel validated because for myself, it was truth. That was truth. Like, I actually traveled last night. That was an astral travel. I didn't know how to say it or describe it, but I just knew it. But then someone else just telling me, oh, that's just going on in your mind. It's just a brain activity that's happening while you're dreaming. It just took away the magic and it took away its truth. And so I started to not share about my dreams anymore. I started to not share about my intuition and really just try to fit into this world, into this matrix. For the longest time in high school, I was an outsider, always like the one kind of like from the outside looking in and looking at people that were popular. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you thrive in this system? And so part of me was like trying to just adjust and be like the person that I think that I should be. And then I got into acting when I was older and went to Munich. And the only way for my parents to help me have an apartment in Munich was if I also was studying in university. So I studied communications in a bachelor's degree in the University of Munich. And meanwhile, I went to film acting school. And so I went into all of that because I really loved being in different worlds through acting. And that helped me to bring that imagination piece that was kind of taken from me because, oh, that's not real. But I was like, okay, at least I can live it out in the acting world. And
beautiful.
That's what led me to go to Hollywood when I was 22. And I was like, I'm going to go to America. I just felt it. The first time I went to America was in school exchange. I was 15 years old and I didn't want to leave anymore. I was like, and it was in Milwaukee, which is so funny. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That was our partner school. And I just fell in love as soon as I put my feet onto the ground on like United States. I was like, this is my home. And I could remember that I've lived here before.
Wow.
And I just knew that I'm going to live in the United States. And I would tell my parents and they're like, sure. And then when I was 22, I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. So I went to Hollywood and did acting classes there. I went to acting school and, just try to dip my toes into the water of Hollywood. And not too surprising, it was very stressful. It was very competitive. It was actually led me down a dark path of like not realizing, wow, like I love the acting part. I love being in those different worlds, but I don't love the industry around it at all. And then I ended up meeting someone there that was my dark teacher. And we started a relationship. And it was very toxic. Looking back, it was like exactly what I needed because it led me to this really dark night of the soul where I felt really lost. I didn't know what my purpose was. I was like, I thought it was acting, but it doesn't feel right anymore. I started just like a job in a fashion company and it didn't feel aligned. My relationship didn't feel aligned. It felt very toxic. I was like walking on like kind of like eggshells to not trigger anything. He had kind of narcissistic tendencies. And it was just everything kind of like got to this point where I wasn't able to express myself authentically. And I didn't even know who I was in the first place. So that makes it really hard to be like, okay, how do I express myself authentically when I don't even know who I am?
Yeah.
It's so easy to say, oh yeah, just be authentic. But I'm like, wait, and which one? Which one authentic? Which one of me is authentic? And so I ended up getting really sick. And interestingly enough, it was in my throat. Wow. And my throat swelled up to the point where I wasn't able to eat anything solid. And I can only drink or have soups. And I would go to the doctor and they were like, yeah, it's like a sore throat, and not a sore throat, a strep throat. And they would give me antibiotics. And I went through 3 rounds of antibiotics and it would just not work.
Wow.
Not go away. And interestingly enough, that is also the last time that I've ever taken antibiotics my whole life. But I just, I was still in that Western mindset medicine of like, oh, I got strep throat, so I go to the doctor and they prescribe me quote unquote medicine, which is, you know, antibiotics kills everything in your body. It's like a nuclear bomb inside the body. So I was really weak, and I was like at this like lowest point of my life, darkest night. And then I was like, all right, I need to get out. I need to get out of this. And it was actually on my birthday, my solar return, when I was sitting outside by a palm tree. And it was so interesting that it was a throat chakra thing, because it was, you know, I wasn't speaking my truth. I wasn't speaking what needed to be said. And I was really hard on myself too. So I was sitting there on the palm tree, took a deep breath in and just like, just let it go. I had no idea what was going on and what's going to be next. And then suddenly I felt the urge to grab my phone and open up the notes app and type in, and started typing, and my finger just started typing on its own. And it started saying, run, 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 get out of here.
I just got the chills. Wow.
And so I broke up with my boyfriend. We were living together. I broke up with him that day, the day before my birthday. He flipped out. I was so scared that something was going to happen to me that night. And I swore to myself that I will, if I survive this night, I will always listen to my intuition from that moment on. Next day, he came back being, you know, sweet talking, trying to, have my forgiveness and apologize and everything. I pretended I was asleep. I just kept my eyes closed. I didn't respond to him at all. He had to go to work. I packed all my stuff and I left. That was the last time I saw him. And I quit the job and just like really rebirthed myself completely. And then it's 11:33 right now too. Yeah. My guides are like, yes, you did it.
Yes.
And I feel like someone needs to hear this too, because I know that so many can be stuck in these like kind of emotionally abusive relationships, and where they just can get really, really harsh with us and really mean. And then the next day it's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's sweet talking, you know, it's this narcissistic tendency. And since then I've met a lot of women that have been going through relationships like this. And then to just know, okay, if any of the listeners is in sort of a relationship like that, and you feel like you have to go on eggshells to not trigger the other person, and you cannot be yourself, that's not your person. That's not the one. That's a dark teacher right there that helps you to step up, speak your truth, and create strong boundaries for yourself. And that's what I did.
Some things that you can share with them that they can do in this space, especially to feel safe, you know?
Yeah. One of the most important parts is when you make the choice completely. Because what is happening with narcissists is that they will get you back into their web in whatever way is needed. And I've actually tried to break up with him like around 3 times before that. And he would always sweet talk me back into the relationship. And we've just been together for like a year. So it was like the whole year was like a whole up and down. And just know that when you are at that space where I'm like, okay, I've learned everything I need to learn in this dark relationship. I got it. This is when you make the choice, and then create strong boundaries. Go to friends, find a support system. Do not answer your phone calls. Don't care about texts or messages or anything. Delete everything and completely block communication. That's the main part, because as soon as you break up, they're going to be angry. They're going to be really saying a bunch of stuff that is really harsh and mean. That's their way of going through it. And it's going to be very easy for you to say no to that, right? It's going to, like, when there's an angry person coming at you, it's like, oh yeah, I'm glad I'm out of that relationship. However, after a little while, they're going to be the sweetest person. They're going to be the person that you originally fell in love with. They're going to be like the showing you, like showering you with gifts and compliments and telling you that they've changed and everything's different now and you have to give them another chance, you know, and coming at you like that. And that's the moment where you need to be strong.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where you need to say no, because I know your shadows and I'm not okay with those shadows. Because when we are together with a person, we are together with their light and their shadow. And if there is a shadow that is so extreme for us, that is hurting us in our own expression, then that's not the right person. Because the right person is going to have a shadow. Yeah, it's going to trigger you, but it's not going to be like, like that's like a traumatic experience that I have now because of that other person's shadow.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, a little extra piece there.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be so helpful for others. You know, I cannot imagine, honestly, I've never really been in that space. Well, like, somehow a little bit, you know, but yeah, putting those boundaries and like committing, it's challenging, you know, it's very challenging, especially when a person comes in and it's like completely sweet and you're like, okay, maybe he changed. And then it repeats again. And it's like, wow, yes, powerful words. Thank you for sharing, sister.
And especially for, you know, as earth angels and healers and light workers, it's so easy for us to get caught up in a cycle like that in relationship, even with clients, you know, in a sense that can be abusive in that sense, when because we just come from this place of I want to heal, I want to help. And then when we are too much of that and we don't allow ourselves to be filled up with that cup, we attract people that are not connected to source, but they're connected to us, sucking our energy. They're going to be dependent on us giving that to them in order to thrive. And that is not healthy.
You were saying that and I saw two orbs moving. Yes.
Like, yeah, truth.
Yeah. Wow. It must have been so it must have been so challenging to feel not yourself and how to be authentic, you know, but I can picture you being by the palm tree and just like, you know, receiving that message and being like, yes. And I find it so amazing that once we like tune in into that inner power, it just like something moves us, you know, and it just happens and we're like, okay, I'm going with this. Okay.
Yeah, it was the first time that I've channeled my higher self like that. And I actually, a few years down the road, when I, you know, went through my whole spiritual awakening, I was in meditation and I did an astral travel, and it took me back to that time where my past self was sitting on that palm tree. And I would go to myself and give that message to my past self.
Wow.
And then it all went full cycle. So it's kind of similar. Like we are our higher self. We are our own higher self. We are our own angels. You know, when we have these messages that are coming in, it's a part of us. And we can, you know, travel out of this body. There's no time. So future, past, everything is happening at the same time. And we can literally just tune into those different dimensions. This is why we can shift timelines like that. You know, as long as we are in this human body, we're part of the game of life. We have to stay on this linear time. But as soon as we are moving out of our body, shifting our consciousness into our astral body, that's when we can literally go into all kinds of timelines.
Yes. And it's so fun.
It's so fun. So freeing too.
Yeah. I am so fascinated with that every time I do it. And then afterwards I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's been so fascinating because now just circling back, when I first channeled my higher self, this is now what I help my clients with, in connecting to their higher self, connecting to their spirit team, connecting to source, letting that life force flow through them, opening up that channel so that they can really bring that medicine into the world, their unique medicine. And
beautiful.
what we're doing is astral travel. In every session that I have with my clients, we go on astral travels, which was, back in the day, that's what I was kind of ashamed of. That's what I was afraid of sharing, because when I shared it, it wasn't received. It wasn't validated. And I had to come full circle to this place where I was completely disconnected from source, completely disconnected from myself, from my truth, trying to adjust myself to the matrix, trying to be like everybody else, or how I'm supposed to be, to then realize, you know what? No, that's not my way of living. That's not how I want to live. I love magic, and my life is going to be magical.
Yes.
No matter if our people believe in it or not, it doesn't matter. And then when I stepped into that place of like embodying that truth, that is my truth. This is the way that I play this game of life. I have the power to go into the settings and go on, how do you want to play this life? Magical. Tick, click on it. This is how I'm going to do it. Other people have their own way of living. Doesn't matter to me. Right. And then when we embody it, then it's like, wow, that's your reality now. And from that space, now you can go and do anything, anything that your heart desires, because you've decided that this is your reality. You've decided that this is your truth.
Yes. Like super aho to all of that. I was like listening, I'm like, yes, so pumped up because it's so true. Oh my gosh, it's so true. And thank you for all you do, because it makes such a big difference in our planet, like when we do our inner work and then we're sharing it, and then we're channeling things, and almost like being that little guide, or if somebody needs like one more little piece of their puzzle, and we kind of go there, like we're the mirror of it, and they're like, and then they can put their puzzle together and redesign the puzzle the way they went to redesign. Is so powerful. So powerful.
And what I found out too is that, in the society that we're living in, or that we have been raised in, that is more on the masculine level of linear. If you want to go somewhere A to B, this is the steps that you need to do. And it's like the society of like hustle, right? And working hard to get where you need to go. And then realizing, okay, so how many of us have ever felt, and I was part of that too, and I sometimes still find myself in that space where I'm trying to force something to happen, and I'm trying to like break through something. And it's like I'm like, I want this to happen. It feels so right. And I want this to happen now. And then it's not working, or it feels really hard, or it feels like, oh, it's not coming out. Like when you want to write a book and you're like, I know that this is ready, but it's not flowing. It's not coming out. And you're trying to force it, but it's not going well. It's not working. It's not the time for it, right? And then when we realize, oh, there is such a thing as source time, which is actually comes in seasons and in cycles. And while we have this linear time, there's also the cycle that goes around it. And it's just like, when you look at the sun is the masculine force that is moving through the universe. And it's kind of, you can look at it from a linear point of view, and around it goes the earth and the planets. And those are the seasons. And then even around the earth goes the moon, so those are all seasons that we can tune into. That's the source time. And when we start connecting with source time, that's where I go by the name Sourceress, because we're connecting to source, right? And we're going back to our original timing. And we realize when I'm connected to source, that's when I'm in sync with cosmos. That's when I receive those synchronicities, those little signs that are guiding me along the path. And I actually don't have to force anything, because I can have the vision and be clear on what I want to manifest, but then I allow the flow to make it happen.
Yes. Wow. And sometimes we do get stuck in those things, like really big time. I found myself in that when my puppy passed away last year. And then she told me, like the moment that I received the message, I mean, I was definitely devastated. And I walked away from Derek's family. We were in a family gathering, and I was like, I'm just walking away. And he's like following me, like, do you need something? And at that moment, I just needed nature and trees. And I took off my sandals and I was walking barefoot. And then I got to a spot and just collapsed on my knees. And I just held my belly and my heart. And she came to me and she said, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. And this is the reason why it had to happen this way. And you didn't have to see me like that. And I find myself like at times still like fighting, like, okay, like, are you here yet? There's this puppy kind of coming through, and I'm like, but it's her. And then I was just like, oh, let it go. She's gonna come when she needs to come, just like when she did, because she came through right at the peak of my depression. And it's so beautiful because she even like gave me a message last week, and she said, when you accept that I am you, you will stop missing me. And that I was like, your wisdom. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I feel like at times we can get so caught up in that kind of situation because we're having this human experience and we like get so tuned in into something and how we want to receive it. And then when we let go of that control and just surrender, just like the magic happens. And it even like it's kind of like, whoa, I couldn't even have imagined this to happen.
And it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because, going through that grief, it's sometimes really hard to still be open to receiving the messages from our loved ones.
Yeah.
And and that happens. Everybody is moving through grief in a different way and needs to be moving through grief. Like it's important that you take that time to cry, because their spirit, their lifetime is over, and those memories are all that you have left from that lifetime, from that. The soul is still there, right? And she's gonna come back through a different body. However, that spirit, that is very unique to her. And it's okay. It's okay to grieve that, and it's okay to have that human experience. This is why we've incarnated. We just wanted to be in the divine world the whole time. We wouldn't have incarnated. We come here to be like, oh, let me try. How does it feel to be human? And it was funny because just yesterday I had one of those really human experiences, where I was just I just kind of felt exhausted and tired, and like it wasn't flowing well, and it was just like meh, but like one of those days. And then I was like checking in with my guides at the end of the day, and then they were like, well, did you call us in the morning? I was like, you know what, I didn't. And then I realized that I forgot to do that. And then they were like, don't be like, this was exactly what needed to happen, because you want to go into this human experience and really feel what most other people are feeling in this world, so that you can relate to it. And it was new moon in Pisces, which makes sense. It's like our collective emotions, the soul. And I felt a bunch of sadness and grief for everything that's going on in Ukraine right now. And there's so much war in this world, so much suffering, even in our own country, and even just in the neighborhood, and it was like, yeah, you needed to feel that, to know how it feels to be in that every day. And I was like, shoot, to remember how it was when I was in that realm, disconnected from my higher self, disconnected from my guides. And it literally, I mean, at that time, I had a time where I was thinking of just leaving this life. I had suicidal thoughts, because I was like, what's the point? Like, I'm just taking up resources, as a human, because I literally disconnected myself from my soul, my multidimensional being, my multidimensional self. And there are so many people in this world that are still moving like this. through life, and it's hard. And especially when death comes into place, with COVID, we have a lot of, through the lockdown and everything that has been going on, a lot of suffering, a lot of death is coming into people's awareness now. And that's when I realized, even with my parents, you can be religious your whole life, but doesn't mean that you have faith.
Yeah. Wow.
Doesn't mean that you're actually connected to source. Like, I realized with my parents that they are very afraid of death, and they don't know. They have big doubts about the afterlife. And my mom is a witch, and she doesn't know it. My mom is so intuitive, and she talks to loved ones who have crossed over, but she just puts it away as like, oh yeah, I was just thinking about her. Like, oh yeah, you just thought about her the moment that she crossed over. Like, that's not random, like, she obviously visited you, and that's why you thought of her at 4 a.m. and you woke up. Like, that happened several times to her, and she just puts it off as like, just, oh, that was a random circumstance, And I think that a lot of people are going through that, even though they are officially religious. So that was a big aha moment for me, where I realized, being connected to source, when we all are connected to source, the world would be in peace. We wouldn't have those wars. Right? If Putin was connected to source, would he still make those moves? If the people, even the leaders in many of our countries, if they were consciously connected to source and allow their life force to channel through them, would they make the choices that they're making right now? If they were aware that they're multidimensional beings, that whatever they are putting out there is coming back to them, even if it's not in this lifetime, but in another, that while hurting others, they're actually hurting themselves, because we're all one. Like, imagine a world that we can live in when we are all aware of that, when we are all on that consciousness level. And this is why it's so exciting to be living in these times right now. And this is why people like you and me have incarnated to experience this human life. Because we are here to move through our own journey, for our own doubts, for our own confusion, for our own overwhelm and stress, to then help uplift the rest of humanity.
Exactly.
And every time we integrate some trauma within ourselves, we help others integrate their trauma as well.
Yes, the ripple effect. Yeah, so true. It's so true. I often say that as well. Like, gosh, how would our life be like? How will this planet be like if we all just tune into that space within us? The space that there's no separation. There's no, this is you, this is me, this is the boundaries of this country. It's just that, from where we come from, where we go back to. If we all just tune into that, it will be so much different, so much different.
And we've been there before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have. Oh, I love all of this. Yes, because you're totally speaking my language, and I'm so grateful.
Yes. And we know, we remember. That's really what it comes down to. And I know that this is part of your message too. It's all about remembering, right? It's not even that, oh my gosh, we have to create a society, this whole new society now, this whole new way of living, of like, how can we even be come together? I remember my parents were actually the ones always saying, history always repeats itself. Like, men have always created war. And it's so funny that we call it his story, right? So now we're coming back to, okay, what's our story? How does it look like when his and her story is coming together? And we're creating this world together, because our story doesn't have to be stuck in a cycle. Because when we connect to source, we can actually break cycles, and we can up level, and we can remember who we were in ancient civilizations that were on earth or on different planets, and bring that knowledge back into the modern worlds.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm part of this group. It's called Our Story. And yeah, it's like a bunch of facilitators from all around the world of inner dance. That is it's like a sound healing that me and my partner facilitate everywhere that we lived. We just put like a little seed of that and introduce it to the community. And through the journey, honestly, it takes you back into our story. And remembering and like breaking cycles like you were saying, and this codes and programmings, and then just like literally just tuning into that and allowing that energy to come through and to guide you and to be with it and be it while you are still witnessing your own process and at all at like the wisdom of the physical body and all the wisdom that it carries and the remembrance that goes back for like goodness eons. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful, like coming into that space and being able to share, because I mean, back in the day before when our parents were growing up, my aunt actually, she is like the wild one of the family back then. My grandpa was like, nope, no boyfriends. Like if she came home past like 8 p.m., he will lock the door and she will have to figure out how to do it. And of course, my sweet grandma will open up the door, but she will even tell me that she was just coming from school, there was nothing else, but she did not believe in this kind of society. She wanted to just voice her voice, and my grandpa was like, nope. And she told me it was so challenging to grow up because she saw a different vision. And so like she was kind of called a witch at times, and have all this like kind of fights with my mom at times because she was totally out there. My mom was like in the zone, even though my mom is so gifted too. It's funny when you were saying that about yours. And yeah, and now we're in this experience where we can open more about that. The throat chakra is more expressing itself and is connected to the heart, and then we're all coming together and sharing our experiences, which sharing is so important because it could also bring up that remembrance in you. And so somebody sharing there is like, oh wow, I also kind of feel this way. And somebody comes with something else and we're like, oh. So that space I found is so powerful, and is something that we all just say like, our story, our ancestors. It's not your ancestor or her ancestor or his ancestor. It's our ancestors. It's our story. Let's bring that back up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the ancestors of our body, right? And we're carrying that with us as well. Whichever body we've incarnated into in this lifetime, we've carrying everything that our ancestors have done in the past, which includes the gifts, but also all the traumas that they went through.
Yep.
And we chose this body for a reason. We chose to be born in a certain culture, into a certain family for a reason, because we are here to help integrate that ancestral trauma as well and reclaim those gifts from the past.
Yeah.
I remember I was in a past life, I was Jewish, and I was actually, I remember really hating Nazis and Germans in particular, which made sense. And, and then to know that I chose to reincarnate into a German lineage where my ancestors, I did like an ancestry test and it's like 98% German. Like literally I chose a lineage that is so German, so Germanic, where I was like, really, okay, let me really dive into that, into that culture that started 2 world wars. Like, what is that? What is that competition, that very strong masculine? Germany is very masculine. The intuition, logic and intellect is very high. Intuition and the feminine is not seen as important, as it is in many Western cultures. And I had to move through that to then come to that place to realize, wait, our feminine powers as women especially doesn't lie in trying to be like men and trying to adjust ourselves to the masculine, but rather reclaiming our feminine, which is the mystery, which is the magic, the subtle realms. Because we have a womb, we're connected to source. We're literally bringing beings from source into this realm.
Yes.
And even if we don't have physical babies, we're literally creating babies all the time with projects and ideas and art and businesses. And, you know, we're birthing on a regular basis.
We so are. Yeah.
And so reclaiming that and be like, you know what, the feminine, we know how to birth. Men do not know how to birth. And literally we can see that how many deaths we have, maternity deaths, and like how much trauma is happening in hospital births settings, because we have given our powers away as women to men, literally, to tell us what to do during birth. And men say push, 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 where it's like, no, it comes in waves, right? You can breathe into it. And it's the same thing when we want to birth a project into this world. It's not about push, 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 force it, because what happens is you get hurt. And the project might not be ready. The project might have just needed a little bit more, and might be a little bit sick when it comes out, you know, because you didn't give it your all, because it wasn't ready yet to be out. Right. And when we go back into our feminine powers to realize, wait, life comes in cycles and seasons, and I can tune into that, and I can breathe with the waves. And I don't call them contractions, because that's a word that makes me feel icky, right? It makes me like close up. No, I open myself to the flow, to each surge, and work in co-creation with the baby, and allow it to come when it's meant to come, and trust in the process, and know my ancestors are with me.
Yes.
And that's when we're birthing physical babies, but also businesses and projects and arts and any manifestations that we're seeking in a flow-like state, with less stress and more flow.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Trust the process and know that your ancestors are with you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. There's so much energy passing through right now. I feel the heart just like, whew. So good. It's so good. And it's really powerful to hear, you know, those challenging moments of your life, of having like wanting to ask all these questions and not being allowed to, but then ask all these questions about, you know, science, and then moving in through your awakening with that, living your partner and stuff, and then hearing you now shining, you know, and sharing your wisdom, which is, to me, is so powerful to see somebody in their totality, and especially for the listeners and the ones that are watching the video too, because we can forget when we are in those moments that we can be led into something else much bigger, you know. So in that moment it could just be like this contraction, it just like anxiety and depression and all these things, and we forget we can also be somewhere else, and those spaces can take us if we allow them and surrender, like you were saying, be with the flow and allow those teachings to come through to guide us into those spaces and shine like you are, you know, and learning, integrating, and just be you. I mean, how blessed are we that you are being you, you know, and just not just you, Hanna, but like everybody else are actually just being themselves without conditions, without how their parents told them to be or how they saw in society, just literally being and shining at being themselves is so powerful.
Yes, and it's a process too. And this is the fun part, right? Like when you talk about shining, like we're stars that are just shining the lights brighter and brighter. I just, yesterday I was on, or 2 days ago, I was on a summit called The New Human. And I was guiding the attendees to meet their higher self. And while I'm guiding others in a group, I'm also taking myself into the astral travel. So I was meeting my higher self as well. And she actually gave me as a gift this like big piece of light, this ball of light. And she put it around my body and be like, this is like a new up leveling of how you shine your light so more people can see you.
Yeah.
And it's even people that you look up to and be like, oh yeah, they're shining their lights. Every one of us is growing, and there's still always something more to integrate from the past and to manifest more into the future, you know, and at the same time, we're whole the way we are right now. So it's this beautiful balance between those, you know, the masculine that is like, yes, I want to grow, I want to strive, I want to shine more. And then the feminine that's like, we already source. We're already here. We're already exactly where we're meant to be. And I wanted to add this too, with that toxic relationship and what you just mentioned about there's something bigger for you out there when you just let go of that piece. I remember I was asking him, and that was just a few days before I made the choice to leave him. I asked him, or I said to him, you know, I'm looking for someone that sees me as a goddess and who I see as a god. You know, someone that honors me as a goddess and I honor as a god. And he said, yeah, you can honor me as a god, but the goddess doesn't exist. Wow. And that was for me the point where I was like, okay, he's not the one. He's not the one. And then 6 weeks after I broke up with him, after I went through this whole rebirth and like reclaimed my, you know, going back to my dreams, going back to like feeling deeper into my intuition again, and letting myself be guided to things. I was actually literally guided to this event in LA where I then met my now husband, who is my twin flame. And he was the one that saw the goddess within me right away, even when I didn't see her yet. And it went so quickly, and we moved in within like 4 weeks, and then we got married within 11 months, and now we have 2 beautiful children, beautiful star seeds that are, you know, blessing us to be our children. And I just wanted to mention that because it can be so fast afterwards. Like it can be such a quantum leap. You know, we hear that a lot of times, that it's like when we shift a cycle, when we break a cycle, time actually can go quicker. And things happen quicker than we thought they would be able to. And it's all about going back and integrating a cycle that we've been repeating. And then when we shift that, then it's like, oh, you just up leveled. Here you go.
Yay.
New timeline.
And this is pretty cool because being that you're a certified astrologer, you know, I remember also having a call with you and you were like telling me some things about my business and all these things. And it's really amazing how we can use the sky in our birth charts to guide us through these spaces, you know, and I really love to like tap in a little bit into that in your work, because I mean, I cannot tell you how much understanding my birth chart has helped me. And I recently, I think it was last Monday, when I looked at my birth chart and I looked at like where all the planets were, and then I was like, oh, I literally had this moment of like, I am actually living the life of my dreams. And I remember like going, like when I first started like paying attention to that so many years ago, kind of not really understanding it, you know, but then some things I was like, okay, I do definitely have to work on these things and stuff. But it's so beautiful to use that as a guide too. And I'm sure that as an astrologer, you do this as well for your clients. So can you like tell us a little bit about your story with astrology?
Yes. So when I met my now twin flame, or my now husband, you know, I experienced a spiritual awakening. Our first kiss, I had Kundalini rising. I was like, whoa, what was happening? I had no idea what was going on. So I went through this whole, like, you know, learning about myself and yoga and breathing and meditation and, you know, just path that I was on. And then his mom gave me a book, and I actually have it right here under my laptop. I'm going to show it right here because there's a reason why I chose that as part of where I'm putting my laptop on. And it's called The Astrology for the Aquarian Age. And this was a book from my husband's dad. And he It wasn't like that. He wasn't an astrologer, but he was interested in those in mysticism and the mysteries. And she gave me that book, and they were divorced, and so he didn't care for the books anymore. And she gave me that because she said, I feel like, you would like that. And I started reading it, and I read in the foreword, it was written by, I want to say Helen is her name. Let me double check and give her the full credit that she deserves. Oh no, never mind. Alexandra is her name, Alexandra Mark. And she wrote this in the 70s. And it's not even that it's such a profound book, but it talks about astrology and, how it's the cosmic clock. And she says that in the foreword, she says, I really wish that someone reads this and brings back astrology into this modern times, because it's really important. And it's what we're going to need in the evolution of humanity. Something like this, she said. And while I was reading it, I was like, she's talking to me. And I could just feel it in my heart, like, and this is the power of writing books, right? Yeah. This is the power or even podcasts, this is the power when we do something that goes beyond years. She wrote that 40 years before I came across that book. And I felt like she talked to me, and it was so beautiful, because from that moment on, I really dove into astrology full on. And I started having downloads from my guides. And I was like, is this the thing? Like, am I supposed to dive deeper into this? And they were like, yes. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it for real. So I got certified with the American Federation of Astrologers, which is like 2 times. In order to be a professional astrologer, you go for 2 exams. They're each 8 hours long. Wow. Sitting in the library, calculating the charts by hand and then interpreting the charts. And it was intense. It was literally the most intense. The most intense exams I've ever written. And I had statistics in the University of Munich as one of my subjects. So that was pretty hard too. But that astrology exam was really hard. But I was so determined to be like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for real. I'm going to dive in all the way. And I was also, through my channel, I was channeling a lot of the things that needed to be written, because the calculations I did with my human self, but then the interpretations of it, I just closed my eyes, really focused on my breath, and opened up my channel and allowed my higher self to come through, and then just allowed my hand to write whatever needs to be written down. And I, as a human, just had to focus on the breath. And so that was that. And now since then I started, giving readings to people. That's how I started out first, as an astrologer and tarot cards. And then I shifted in being more of a coach or mentor, so that I can go deeper, because I realized, okay, like an hour of inner blueprint reading, I still do those to get to know people. But then I'm like, all right, if you want to go deeper, let's go deeper. And I have a 9-week container, I have a 9-month container. And now I'm going to launch the School of Sourcery at the end of this month. So I like to go deep.
Yes.
And that's where I shifted my work from like just having like hourly works with more people to be very specific with who I'm working with and going deep with them to rise high. But yeah, you're absolutely right. With astrology, it's like such a beautiful, I call it inner blueprint, because it's our energetic DNA, so to speak, that we've come here into this lifetime, and we can choose what we do with it. Like, there is this beautiful balance between destiny and free will, right? So we can have the birth chart and our archetypes, but then also, how do we want to express those archetypes? In what way? That's on us. We can choose that. And sometimes, like astrology on a more shallow level people just look at the sun sign, and certain sun signs have really bad reps, and like, oh, Scorpios can't date Gemini and those are the worst, and la-di-da. And it's like, that's complete BS, because first of all, it just looks at it from a very shallow level. Second, we have, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars. We have so many planets. We're a whole universe in ourselves. We're not just the sun. We're literally the whole cosmos within ourselves. And additionally, we have the choice. Do we want to, let's say we are a Scorpio sun, do we want to choose to go into the shadows of Scorpio, which is being manipulative or being secretive? Or do we want to go into the light of Scorpio, which is being magnetic and powerful and being able to transform others, So we can choose that. And that's where I'm coming from. I'm not seeing astrology as like a fate, like, oh, you have your birth chart, like, oh my gosh, you're doomed. You have Saturn in the 7th house. Horrible things will happen to you in relationships. Rather than that, I'm like, okay, cool. You have Saturn in the 7th house. That means you want to be very, very clear on who do you connect with. You want to be like, it needs to feel very much aligned. You need to be very specific. Saturn means to focus on it and rather move slowly than rushing into something that doesn't feel right. That would be like one way of looking at it. How can I work with that Saturn energy rather than seeing it as something bad that I have to kind of deal with in this lifetime? Like, no, we have the power. We are above our inner blueprint, and we have the power to work with it and for our highest good.
Yeah. Wow. This is so amazing. Yeah. Astrology is like something that is so fascinating. Every time I hear another astrologer, I did a podcast with an astrologer from Australia. We concentrated on Lilith, and because she wrote a book, I Am Lilith, which is amazing, honestly. But it was just fascinating, when somebody's in their zone of genius like you are, and just expressing that and sharing that, is like, I had a question about this. If like in your social media or in your newsletter, if you share about these kinds of things that are happening with the planets and the moon and etc.
Oh, if I do that? That's a very good question.
Because I'm wondering if somebody that is listening right now is like, wow, this woman has so much wisdom, and the way that she just explained all these things is like, how do I get more of that? And sometimes like they need a little more taste before they commit, and some just are wondering like this kind of transition. If you share this in your social media or newsletter or something.
Yes, thank you so much for prompting me on this, because this is actually something that I'm moving through right now, because I have these phases. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship that I have with social media. And, my moon is conjunct midheaven, which means that I have this time where I'm like fully present on social media and I share everything and I'm fully there. And then I have this time where I'm completely disconnected and I'm out. And so I'm in this process right now to actually call in a virtual assistant for my business to provide these medicine pieces on a regular basis, so that it's not just like, I'm moving through my own flow and I'm channeling and then I'm outward, but then I'm inward again, but rather someone that can be there on a consistent basis so people can, receive those tidbits and medicine whenever they need to.
Amazing. So many super blessings for that. Yeah, I'm sure like you continue to like bless more people with all of that. And so this takes me back into your programs. So can you share with us about your 9-week program and the 9-month program, and also what were you saying?
The School of Sourcery.
The School of Sourcery. Wow, like that just has so much power and vibration in the name. So yeah, please share with us. That way, again, the ones that are listening or watching the video can really understand more what they could tune into if they choose to work with you, or when they choose to work with you.
Yes. So for my programs, the 9-week or the 9-month, I'm actually just taking on people that I first had an inner blueprint reading with. So the inner blueprint reading is an hour long, and you can book it from my website. And that's really where we look into your chart and we're seeing, okay, what is currently moving on in your life? What is happening? How can I be of support for you? That's the reason why I like to do that, is because I really want to make sure that we're a good fit together and that it just flows. Like every client that I'm taking on is a soul client. It's like, oh my gosh, I know you from a past life. That kind of feel. So I don't like to have just like an open enrollment, anybody who has the money, just like, you guide me through this, here it is. But I'd rather be like, I'm just taking on people where I go to each call being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be working with you. And I love diving deep. And you share, you know, all this piece with me that you might have never shared with anybody else, because I'm creating this container where we can really integrate those past pieces, those cycles from ancestral lineages, from past lives, from childhood, so that we can integrate those pieces through astral travel and see in your astrology chart, okay, how can I manifest them in tune, in sync with my inner blueprint, so that I can give that medicine out to the people. So that's what we're doing in the 9-week rebirth journey. It's called the intensive rebirth. And that's what we're doing a call once a week, astrology, dream interpretation, you know, synchronicity interpretation. And then we're going into the astral travel, and we're going into past life, ancestral lineage, but also future timelines, and really connect you with your spirit team. So that's part of it, that really starting to realize who is on your spirit team, because we have different guides, and a lot of times it's actually one of our past selves that is part of the team, or from our future, or from a star family, and we start connecting with them. And then the 9-month program is the mentorship program, and I only take on people to the 9-month program that have already been in the 9-week program before too, because in the 9-week is when we really go deep intensively and connect with the spirit team, and, you know, integrate the traumas to manifest dreams, like really dive and up level to this next timeline. And then after that, the 9-month mentorship is to deepen it, to embody it, to make that your mundane way of living. Like that magic is your new normal. That magic of like, shoot, I'm like channeling and experiencing these beautiful synchronicities and deep intimacy relationships. That's my new magic. That's it. That's the new normal. And that's what I'm guiding people through in the 9-month mentorship. And then the School of Sourcery is my baby. My newest baby. I'm in my 7th year right now, and actually 9 years ago, that was also my 7th year, I had my first out-of-body experience after I went through, you know, my spiritual awakening and meditations. And I was in meditation, and I remembered moving outside of my body and, you know, just like walking around. I saw my cat spirit walking around, and I was like, that's why you sleep all the time, because you love astral travel. And so that was 9 years ago, my last 7th year. And now in the 7th year, I know this is the time now to establish a school that I've been feeling called to establish for a long, long time. And I want to teach that to my students on how to connect with your spirit team, how to sync with cosmos. So we're going into the moon magic, we're going into your inner blueprint and seeing, okay, what portal opens up for me specifically each cycle, and how can I integrate and manifest in sync with source time? Because just because it's Pisces new moon for the collective, it's something else that is happening for you individually. So you can work with both of those energies. And also what we're doing is what I call source flow, which is really allowing that channel to be opened and then flowing with the magic, becoming sensitive to your energy field, to your magic that is coming out of your body, right? Because that's how we can manifest a lot of things. We are used to the mind, you know, like there's many spiritual teachings that say the mind is everything. And that's a very masculine way of looking at things. The mind is the most masculine energy, air. And so when we sometimes feel like, okay, my mind tries to control the body, right? We're trying to control things with the mind. It can be forceful. But a lot of times when we want to be in the flow, we want to tune into the body. We want to tune into the soul and allow them to come forward and speak to us. You know, instead of us trying to control them, making like, I gotta control my emotions. I gotta control my body. I gotta make my body look the way I want it to look. I gotta, you know, negative emotions coming up. I gotta control them and be positive. You know, that's when it comes from that mind perspective. But rather realizing, wow, my soul, my body are communicating to me. They're messaging me. And how do I tune into that? And how can I flow with that and create space for then the mind to come in and create that manifestation into this reality?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. What a beautiful offering. And to anybody that will take that from you as their guide, as their teacher, as their sister too, you know, wow.
Yes.
I'm
And then
so
we have,
excited for you.
thank you. I'm so excited too. And then, so we start out with 12 OGs, 12 original goddesses who are going to join throughout these 9 months that we're going to move through each of the cycles. So I have this program with the 9 steps. That's why it's 9 weeks and 9 months for the mentorship as well, because they're 9 steps to rebirth, and they're different. Each of these steps is basically a sorcery tool that you can use in your connection to source. And I like to write sorcery as SOU, you know, with a U. Because it's from source, you know, really connecting us to source.
Wow.
And each month, a guest teacher is actually coming on into the School of Sourcery and sharing their medicine as well on each of the chakras, because we're going to move through the chakras as well, because that's part of opening up the energetic channel. And so there's a lot of magic happening. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for it. So for anybody who is interested in that, I have a soft launch for it right now. So there's not like a sign up sheet where you can just go in and sign up, because I'm very specific on who I like to invite into the space, and I want to get to know them first. So if that feels like, yes, I am one of the sorceresses, I really want to embody this magic in my everyday life, then they can reach out to me either on Instagram, Hanna Lena Christensen, or through my website, hannachristensen.com. And then we can hop on a little call and just talk about, you know, deeper, like what we're going to be doing in the school. And if that's something that really is for their highest good, if that feels resonant for both of us. And then, I'm happy to welcome the original goddesses.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you. And I also put the links down below so people can just click and, you know, super easy for them. Amazing, Hanna. Wow. It's been really lovely to hear your story and again, understand in a way, you know, and resonate with so many things that you said, and then see you as you are right now, embodying your full power and just shining and just being you, which is again is so inspirational, not only for me, but I'm sure for people that are listening and also the ones that are watching the video as well. And thank you for coming into the space. Thank you for sharing, you know, for opening up just you to other little fields. They might find this resonance with you and be like, like you said, sister, like I know you, let's connect. So thank you for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I wish you continuous success and so much love and joy in your life and in your projects and all the beautiful births that you're experiencing in your lives. And thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. And thank you everybody for tuning in, for watching. Down below are all the links for Hanna if you feel that this pull to connect with her, to get a blueprint reading, or just to talk about the school if you really resonated for that. And I'm sure she'll be delighted to have a talk with you. Thank you, everybody. Many blessings to everybody, and I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.